Hey everyone, this is Waylon. Maybe just leave a comment if you're here live. I know some people are going to join after the fact. Want to see who all is here. My name is Waylon Lewis with Elephant Journal. We started off as a black and white, practically a pamphlet back in the day in 2002. So we've seen a lot of presidencies and administrations and ups and downs and lefts and rights and forwards and backwards. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Rachel. My wife, my newlywed wife, Kelsey, is just like 10 feet that way, 5 feet, running this because it's on a weekend and my staff is off, mercifully free. And I just felt, I've done some live videos in the last few days with, random followers, whoever joined. Some of them have been big, some of them have been kind of normal sized. And it just feels like, particularly in the first day or two, a pretty overwhelming feeling of dread and here we go again. And this time it might be worse. And needless to say, from if anyone here is conservative or MAGA, which are two different things, I am coming from a particular perspective that I think like progressives on the far left or liberals or traditional Republican conservatives that is most concerned not with Democrat or Republican, but with basic decency. I think norms is kind of a boring word, but insulting people, threatening people, undermining the vote. These are things that aren't good for any of us in society. Edie, hey, Edie, from Dublin, PA. Wish you'd been able to come through for us, not you, but your wonderful state. Anastasia, Andrea. So we're going to share this widely after the fact, but mainly I just wanted to get together and see if people had ideas for how to go forward. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't have a lot of ideas that you might have. And, just to share, I think in the day or two following, the only thing we had, my wife, Kelsey, my best friends, my staff, my community around town, the only thing we had was each other and community and sort of grieving. It feels like a bit of a I can't think of an analogy. It's a little bit like we're rolling along on a highway that's already difficult and bumpy, like one of those Irish unpaved roads. And then we see a bridge in front of us fall in flames into the river. And we know we're going off into the rapids. And that analogy doesn't even begin to cover it because nature and accidents and that's different. We are heading into something a little bit more like Voldemort, without hyperbole. I think actually the reverse, much worse. It's going to be real life. It's going to hit real people hard. And some of us have privilege and will be safe, and some of us don't and won't be. Some of us have privilege and have put ourselves out there and won't be safe. And to the extent that any of us have empathy and care about others, none of us will be safe from this. So, Corey, one of the only ideas I've had so far and have begun is to pay even more attention to where I spend my money. I need to continue to be more intentional on where I purchase goods and services from. It's not much, but it's something. Yeah, on Threads, actually, right now, I hope I still have it open, but I could find it. We have a sort of, I don't know if folks are on Threads, but let's see if I can find it quickly. Well, maybe I can't, but I can put up an article on Elephant that will Okay, now I have to find the video again. There we are. That lists some companies that are, again, not Republican. I don't think anything is particularly wrong with Republican. My dad is Republican and didn't vote for Trump last round. I don't know about this round. I'm hoping not. I think Trump is a party of one, and he's basically the party of Trump now. There's not these traditional Republican values. He's going to blow up the deficit. That's not a Republican value. He's going to, I don't think, be really pro-economy. I think it's going to be incredibly destabilizing and sort of immature and random. And we're hearing that from folks like the Fed, who are kind of standing up to some of this nonsense. So goods unite us that I'm using. Corey, if you're willing, since this is an inspiration of yours, maybe Kelsey, you can put in the link. It's elephantjournal.com/post, or any of you listening can put in that. Let's put up these ideas as articles on Elephant. We'll share them widely. Goods unite us. You could put in that link. You could put in some businesses. I can list a few. Amazon is, in my view, a deeply troubling organization. It's owned by Jeff Bezos, who smothered and squelched the endorsement of Kamala in the Washington Post, which he owns. I don't agree with boycotting the Washington Post, which employs many, many journalists. I think Bezos is it's Bezos versus the journalists. We don't want to hurt the journalists. So I would boycott Amazon, and I would boycott Whole Foods, and I would boycott I think that's it for him, right? Am I forgetting something? And then Urban Outfitters is a far-right organization, as is, I think they also own Anthropology and Free People. And then, and ironically, they're selling stuff to hipsters who are probably mostly liberal. And then Crocs is founded by far-right MAGA folks who live here in town. But we can make a big old list. And I think, from the point of view of boycotts, I think boycotts are a long tradition, going back to civil rights, going back well before that. And there's nothing wrong with boycotting. We're not trying to cancel people's existence. We're just saying we want to spend our money ethically. And I think ethics is a really important word to think about right now, where, the whole thing about feeding the wolf. There's this wolf, there's that wolf. Which wolf are you going to feed? We want to feed the wolf generally. We don't just have to focus on folks to boycott. We can focus on where to spend our money. And generally, we want to spend our money with small business, with folks who we know. Kelsey and I are going to go bake bread right after this with a neighbor. That's not even money spending particularly, except for, obviously, we get the flour and things at a local shop. And then we're going to go to farmers market, and we know these farmers, right? And again, we don't have to agree with everyone, but we need to feel like there's some ethical goodness happening. So local, small, in my view, plastic free, not creating something that is toxic, that is fueling our climate crisis. One of the things that most depresses me about this election of Donald Trump is that we were, through the Infrastructure Act under Biden, we were really starting to change the economy into being one that's more in harmony with our planet. We were on pace to have reduced our carbon emissions by 40% by 2030, I think, and we needed to be on pace of 50%. Now we're going to go back to, like, in my view, negative 10% or whatever. Trump's going to kill the sort of EV movement. And for those who like to criticize EVs, all cars and trucks and all that already exist, dirty fueled container ships, which deliver your Amazon packages. And we need to transition all that to something cleaner and then power it with solar or wind or whatever. So I'm pretty panicked about the effect it's going to have on our climate for all time, for all generations. And for those MAGA types or QAnon folks who claim to care about children, the climate crisis is going to be the ultimate existential good historically, or bad present and future effect on children's life. Like, I got to grow up and fall in love and travel and start a business and go through ups and downs. That's a privilege that hopefully most of us have had in one way or another. I want all future generations to have that privilege. All right, free hugs, Edie. I love that. I think, yeah, affection. I think slowing down and really eye contact and communication with community is joyful. Julie, thoughts on how to have conversations across the aisle? So I view this in a pretty intense way, Julie. If someone has a ethical or thoughtful disagreement with us, I'm all about having a good conversation. The other day, I had a pretty intense conversation with one of Kelsey's friends. It was intense for me because I felt a lot of disagreement. I think there's a lot of momentum in our society to good vibes only this, to say things will be okay. I disagree with people. We need to all get along. Anyone else feel that pressure? And for me, I really look up to Emerson, Thoreau, Bronson Alcott, all those folks Harriet Tubman, who are pushing against slavery, right? I think hopefully all of us are against slavery, right? So if we bring that into the present day, if you are voting for a rapist, a racist, these are technical, like Donald Trump has been convicted of not renting apartments to N-word Black people going back to the 70s. Rapist, this is not an insult. He has been convicted of, sexual abuse. Someone who threatens enemies, the long list. We hopefully all know that list. I don't regard that as a moral thing to support or normalize. So I actually don't think, I'm honestly personally not that interested in talking with folks who are MAGAfied. But in terms of Republicans who are against everything I care about, are, caring about our environment, blah, 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 I'm all about talking and listening with them. As always, because they have a different upbringing and different values. But no Republican can pretend that Donald Trump represents family values or Christianity. They can pretend, but it's just not honest. Jesus, needless to say, would not recognize Donald Trump's ethics or the MAGA ethics as being in common with, his values or teachings. So, yes, I think treating people with respect, as Gavin Newsom. Was anyone on the Gavin Newsom call yesterday? I know Kelsey was. Kelsey was in the hospital with pneumonia. Trump wants to take away the ACA, right? Obamacare, healthcare for millions and millions and millions. Biden has increased Obamacare by I think 2 times. Millions of people are able to get treated for things and not be in lifelong debt. So if you're against big pharma or whatever, you got to be for healthcare for all. Yeah, we've had Senator Cory Booker on. We've had Governor Jared Polis. We've had Senator Hickenlooper. Many, many politicians. Tim, oh my God, he was kind of a friend. Congressman Tim he was actually lost to J.D. Vance. We've had many politicians over the years. There's many wonderful, caring politicians. I know many of them personally. So for anyone who has overarching cynicism about all politicians, it's just not true. There's a lot of people who want to be public servants and are deeply sacrificing a good life for a stressed out life where they don't make much money. One of my best friends, Steve Fenberg, has been doing that for many years. And then there's people who want to be politicians, who want to be partisan hacks, who want to hurt people. Honestly, I was listening to a call between Steve Bannon and one of Trump's people who's going to be in charge of the FBI or some darn thing. And he was like, yeah, we're going to go after journalists. We're going to go after media folks. We're going to go after, they're going to hurt. Yeah, Colleen, you don't have a name, but you're under now. I'm disabled and very concerned about this issue. Colleen, your daughter has special needs with type 1 diabetes and depends on Medicaid. This is real life for folks. And to Alexi's point, I think those are the other folks who are vulnerable. There's some people who depend on healthcare, which in this country is wildly expensive and not that good. We're ranked like 19th in the world. So for a lot less money, we could cover all people. And, I view that as a Republican value. Historically, if you're enabling someone to work and be productive and contribute to the economy instead of, I can never forget this guy died of he had like a tooth infection and he had suffered under it daily in pain for like 10 years. He's a gentleman of color. And he finally went to the emergency room and died. This was many years ago. And that story always stuck with me. I was like, how can you not want this gentleman to not be in pain every moment of his life, to be able to work, contribute to our economy, and to live out a good life of love and family values? And so, yeah, Heidi, I've been pushing back against, I love Bernie Sanders and I love AOC, and there's some amazing progressive politicians. Bernie came out with a statement that like Democrats have forgotten about the working people. I really like Amy Apoliti, my vote date for well over a decade, a yoga teacher who's quite active. I deeply disagreed with Bernie's take. The Infrastructure Act has invested deeply in the middle class, as has the CHIPS Act, which has brought manufacturing back to the US. There's folks who know far more than me about this, but I think Biden, Mr. Scranton, he deeply cared about unions. There's a reason 90+% of unions endorsed Biden and then Kamala. Anyway, we're doing a lot to reinvest in the middle class, let alone folks in poverty, childhood, tax credit. What was it? The childhood, anyone remember what it was called? It reduced childhood poverty by half during the pandemic, and the Republicans refused to renew it. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's always a tendency to get into circular firing squad, to kind of blame. And I think some of that's fine, and we should learn from this, and we should accept responsibility. Why did so few Democrats turn out? But I think ultimately we failed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I don't view them as having failed us. They ran an amazing campaign in 3 months, raised a historic amount of money, spent that money on turning out the vote, and we failed to show up. We failed to be panicked by the reality of what's coming. And I think, the good vibes only mentality in us is slightly healthy. We don't want to stay in a state of panic, but our nervous systems are there for a reason. They're there to alert us to coming danger that is very real. And for my family, I want to prepare. And preparing for me, because I'm in media, will look different than you. And yeah, so we were on a call with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, yesterday, talking about how they were going to prepare to protect against various threats. Yeah, Corey, great comment. And I think, those who care about individualism, which I think can be healthy within the context of society, individualism is going to be hurt, right? If you're an individualist, but you expect the police or the fighters to come when you call them, you're not really an individualist. Elizabeth Warren had that famous speech saying, okay, you're a successful entrepreneur. Good for you. Congrats, genuinely. But, you got your goods to market through the post office or through the roads or through, needing electricity or Wi-Fi. These are all collectivist societal foundations. That makes sense, Corey? I just spoke briefly with a military friend of mine, and he very confidently assured me that the military has rules and that they would not follow craziness. I was reassured by him. I don't know how much I believe that. I think historically we've seen militaries follow some of these dictatorial, corrupt enemy within kind of orders. So Alexei, I would not, I don't know. I mean, I do know that last time Trump wanted to shoot the knees of protesters, remember, he wanted to bomb Mexico. People pretend he's the peace president. He's not a peaceful person. He's an aggressive person. So yeah, we are not, I don't view us as entirely safe. And I think one of the lessons he's learned is not to surround himself with competent Republicans, but to surround himself by yes men, by cult members. John and Margot. Okay, so these are two like friends of mine, mentors, folks who donate, who organize in Boulder. Yeah, of course, I'd love to get together. You know, there's a lot of people on this call who do a lot of work. Let me catch up. Have I missed, Kelsey, have I missed any key comments or anyone else? You can just say, look up above. Let's bring it back to sort of Buddhist stuff for a second, out of this practical stuff. I think, you know, I promised a little meditation, a little just heart to heart sharing, and I think that's helpful. So why don't you just feel what you're feeling? All of it. Just be brave enough to feel within this safe container. Let's feel all of what you're feeling right now. So you can have your eyes open or closed, but let's just spend a minute or two and we'll do a guided meditation. So feel everything you're feeling: fear, nervousness. If you're feeling anything positive, any hope, anything that you're feeling, good or bad, happy or sad, just breathe into that. Let your heart feel all of it, including the fear. This is how we get to fearlessness. We allow ourselves to be brave enough to feel all of it. So breathe into all of it. Take a good posture. I have my eyes closed. Just breathe into your heart center. Breathe into all of it. Just repeatedly breathe out. You can relax as you breathe out, and then breathe into everything you're feeling. Just allow yourself to let go of a lot of this energy. Don't worry, it'll still all be around. Just take a load off your shoulders. Take a really good posture. Feel free to stretch, but basically keep a good meditation posture. Okay. We can do an actual meditation practice at the end to kind of clear the decks. Kristen, wonderful question about Amazon. So yeah, Amazon, I think, is akin to colonialists historically that pretend to have a treaty with the Native Americans. You know, they work with small businesses, and then there's been extensive articles on this. Then they copy what the small businesses are doing if they're successful, and then they rip them off and they don't show the small businesses, and they go lower and they put them out of business, more or less. Social Security, yeah. Social Security takes constant kind of reform or addressing, Edie, and preservation with every generation. And of course, Trump, going back to George Bush, et cetera, they're not interested in that. They are interested in privatizing, stealing. You know, we're talking about destroying the Department of Education, just destroying funding for public schools, taking that funding, putting it into Christian private schools or other private schools that, like the PPP during the pandemic, will not have oversight, as Elizabeth Warren called for, and will be just talk about the opposite of draining the swamp. It'll be a shopping spree for corrupt folks who want to take public funding. But, we don't have to endlessly get into specifics. I want to talk about fear and nervousness for a second. There's a practice called Tonglen. I can find that and put it in here. Here. And I really recommend doing Shamata meditation. It's sort of basic foundational Buddhist meditation with your breath, finding your thoughts, dedicating the merit, keeping the view. The view is the vision or your mission or intention, which is to be a benefit to all sentient beings, including yourself, including the planet, and then doing basic meditation, then doing Tonglen, then doing basic meditation. That's sort of how you're supposed to do it. You sandwich the Tonglen practice within meditation. That's important because we don't want to make anything too solid. Tonglen is working with a lot of solid energy. So please open up that tab, keep it for later, don't get distracted. Yeah, student loans, all this stuff is going to go backward. The obvious other fear is, a lot of the student loans have already been forgiven. I think I've read a little bit about that, not too much. Christina, you may know more than me, but I think some of that is secure, but a lot of that is not. And obviously with SCOTUS, with the Supreme Court being 6-3 Trump, he's now going to get to replace any of the Alito, any of the older Supreme Court justices. I'm hoping the three can hold on, even though at least one of them, Sotomayor, is older. She's 70, I think. Trump is going to get to replace maybe 3 Supreme Court justices. And, like Obama was respectful with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, allowing her to retire on her own timeline. I don't think Trump will be like that. He'll be like, retire. We're going to replace you with a 40-year-old who will be in office for another 3 or 4 decades. Yeah, if you can blog that up, that would be great, Edie. We'll share it widely. We still have something like 11 million social fans. I'm going hard on Threads. Please follow at Elephant Journal on Threads. If you share an Elephant article and tag us on Threads, I will reshare you. We have at least 140,000 followers on Threads. We left Twitter 2 years ago after it became clear what Elon was doing to it, toxifying it. Yeah, Heidi, we're all going to have to fill the moral vacuum and the practical vacuum. We have a neighbor who is friends with a Latino gentleman who is, scared for his and his family's life. We're really going to have to show up for each other. And even that may not be enough. Yeah, Susan, I'm having a hard time dealing with how many people, friends, and family I've dropped. It's almost as if I've been gaslighted by people saying you can't drop family. Yeah, I think it's both. It's a very difficult subject. I think dropping family or friends who are kind of toxified or magnified or maha-fied is not something we should do lightly. We have to work with these folks and try to be a reference point for them. But I think ultimately, that's something we're allowed to do, and you can certainly do. And even if you don't drop them forever, you can take a 4 or 5 year break from them. We'll see if Trump ever hands off power again peacefully. I don't think he will. I think we're going to have some real problems in 4 years. This is a lot worse than one election. Julie, recommendations on how to expand connections in local community. I'm sure a lot of us do have great suggestions, and I'd love to have this be collective. So please put your suggestions in here. But Julie, I want to make it as simple as this. For me, for years, I've called farmers market free therapy. I've called hiking or going for a walk with my dog free therapy. I've called biking or walking down to my local cafe and being depressed and being grumpy, getting myself out of the house, seeing people. They say, "How are you?" "Hey, Waylon, how are you?" And I'm grumpy and I'm depressed and I just grunt. I'm troubled by something. I'm confused and I just grunt. Second person says, hey, how are you? What's going on? And, you say, And then the third person says, how are you? And you're like, well, honestly, And then the fourth person says, hey, how are you? And you manage to get 3 or 4 coherent words out. Hopefully you can be honest and open, but not, go off on a 4 or 5 minute soliloquy like a Trump tweet with it in all caps. And, by community, my point is community gradually opens me up to processing, to being aware, not just in, but aware of what I'm going through. And on a very simple level, Julie, I would say, join a local pottery lab, join a local knitting circle, join a local book club, volunteer, really like get involved, garden in a public, one of those community gardens, go to your local farmer's market, go to your local cafe that you feel good about and connect with people. Very simple things will keep you connected. I can't emphasize that enough because many other people have emphasized that to me. These strengthening the threads, you can see my dog's tail right there. Can you see? Strengthening the threads of the patchwork quilt that is society is going to be so good for your mental health, Julie. And I want to do that with you right now and give you a big hug. And everyone hopefully giving you a big hug. Does anyone here need a big hug? Maybe just say you need a hug and we can just type hug in the chat. It's silly, but like everyone here, group hug. Touch is so important. Obviously, wanted and needed touch. Group hug. Suzanne Spiegel. Wow. Hey, so good to see you. Another amazing activist. We've got some great folks in here. Suzanne, do you have any ideas or what you're doing, what you recommend we do? I think, from a Buddhist point of view, there's like ground path fruition. On ground level, taking care of yourself, getting outside. If you have a dog, take him or her on walks, play with neighbors. There's Kelsey. She's running this meeting for our staff, which is so generous of her. Meditate, yoga, hopefully not yoga with RFK'd people. But if they're there, having a respectful conversation or just keeping it light, whatever you need to do. RFK endorsing and supporting Trump just blew me away. Trump is by far the worst president environmentally in history, and RFK gladly endorsed him. And I don't view that as, he's going to do great environmental things within the organization. I think he's going to be a whack job. And I say that with due respect, which isn't much respect. 5 most trusted people from Alexei, then ask them to give me their list and so on. Interesting. Maybe say more about that or write about that on Elephant. We'll share it up. Yeah, creating this sort of network, this sort of viral, but what's a positive word for viral, network of community is important. Yeah, Heidi, you just said that. I didn't even mean to steal that from you. Get a dog and walk him or her. Things that force you to connect. But, Kelsey and I and me for many, many years, I go to the Sunday live music morning thing whenever it's warm in Boulder. And you see old folks, you see young folks, you see college folks, you see, people coming back from a bike ride, including 80-year-old cyclists and dogs and babies, and you listen to live music and you're surrounded by trees and community, and it's just great. Like finding a routine that gets you in community is going to be so important. So ground path fruition, that's ground. Meditation, community. Path is going to be like kind of the reaching out to community, making sure the patchwork quilt is strong. And that's both doing work for yourself, for your own depression or fears, connecting with others, like what we're doing right now. And then fruition is going to be outward stuff, activism, whatever you can do. And I think that's going to be interesting because Trump is going to try to make that unsafe. He wanted to shoot the knees of protesters. He wanted to, whatever. So we'll see. Yeah, non-MAGA small business spaces from Suzanne. Swifties group, yeah, it's silly, but you're in a Gen X Swifties group, LOL on FB. And so many of us are friending the others who are horrified by what's happening. Now my feed is showing some more of my like-minded old ladies who also like Taylor's music and message. There's something called blue something. Does anyone know what it is? I think ultimately, if you saw Zuckerberg's message to Trump, social media is not going to be entirely safe. I think we can use it for now, but we may need to be mindful about that because they could provide backdoors to the government as they have in China, et cetera. Be kind in our own homes. I think, I went through a lot of that with Kelsey the other day. I was like, we need to do X, Y, Z to prepare. And she had other considerations. She has a child, and I went through a lot of sort of internal pain around not being able to move decisively, which is what I want to do to prepare. I read a message from a sort of liberal prepper type in Vermont, and that was really interesting. I could share that with folks. It wasn't like fear-based, but it was sort of practical. Let me just try to read that quickly to people. I know prepping gets a bad rap, but prep. Have a plan ahead of time for various scenarios, from the likely higher costs due to tariffs to the possible restrictions on civil liberties, mass deportations, to the unlikely full-on dictatorship or full-scale civil war. Make sure you have a passport, even if you don't plan on traveling or escaping. Having proof of citizenship may prove important. And savings, if you can manage it. Start a little food garden. If you know people you feel will be especially impacted, women, immigrants, etc., have a plan for how to support them or how to get them somewhere they can be safe. Keep several months of basic food supplies and fuel on hand. Stock up on birth control now. Have paper maps and paper copies of important documents. Form communities with people you trust now. One of the first casualties in authoritarian regimes is trust between individuals. Buy more ammo. It's not something I personally agree with, but start thinking of ways to resist or counter Trump outside of the system, because the system will be used to his advantage. Writing your congresswoman is not going to do much good if she is in the minority. Supporting organizations is great, but those are also visible targets for Trump to pressure, harass, and shut down, things like Planned Parenthood. And being on a membership list for some of them may not be a great idea. Again, I encourage folks to support good organizations. But this person says, remember McCarthyism. So unofficial, low-profile groups and organizations may be important. How far you take any of this depends on how serious you think the threat is, of course, but the overarching theme is to prepare. I found that spot on. There's little things that I disagree with, but really appreciated that. An alternative social media platform that we, the people, can use. There is something like, it's called Blue Sky or something. I think that one, a lot of people are mentioning it. I'm not on it. I don't know about it, but it is secure. In your work, do everything to slow down any bureaucratic process. Alexi, say more about that. I think, John, Elephant is one of the last independent mindful media communities, so I'm just going to put in a plug for us. We are 100% owned by myself. I never wanted to sell out to the man or tech or whatever because of our mission. So to the extent all of you can subscribe to Elephant, it's pretty cheap. That would be meaningful, keep us alive and thriving. To the extent you can write on Elephant. I've always had a policy of real names on Elephant, but we may make a backdoor policy of being able to, just have our real first name or something like that. And then on the back end, we'll have the full name. We need to do that for journalistic integrity. We can't allow people to kind of defame each other without having their full name, but we could make that more secure. elephantjournal.com/subscribe or that link, thank you, Kelsey, is perfect. A lot of people, a lot of heroes, wonderful people are writing on Substack. Substack is tech funded. Its mission is money and has a lot of far writers on it. I do not understand folks who are okay with like Medium or Substack or these sort of tech-backed, things. Elephant is one of the very few, to my knowledge, that it's fully independent. So to the extent you guys want to use it and write on it and share, If you need to be more secure, etc., you can message me, you can text me, you can Facebook me, you can whatever for now, and we'll try to make it happen. Alexi, for example, Merrick Garland slow-walked prosecution of Trump for 2 years. In our work, we can do a lot to slow-walk processes without losing our jobs. In the work, Suzanne, we did to fight fracking, legal delays had real impact. I think supporting orgs that fight Trump in the courts could be important. Slowing things down can cause him to run out of time, so donations to those orgs. Yeah, there's some environmental organizations I know for sure who have sued Trump, slowed processes down. I heartily agree, Margot. Trump is only a small part of the problem. The people running the show will be the 2025 folks, including Project 2025 folks, including Elon and Vance. Yeah, I think as long as Elon and Trump can cohabitate, which I don't expect to be long, optimistically, I think those two egos will clash. Elon knows his stuff, or at least has people working for him who knows their stuff in terms of like social media surveillance kind of stuff. So I think, we need to take this very, very seriously. Again, to my criticism of Bernie earlier, who again, I love and respect generally, I really disagreed with the middle, that Democrats have forgotten the middle class thing. If you want to talk about elites, you got a billionaire president, you got Elon making 30 billion more the day after the election, being the first $1 trillion man or whatever it is. You can look at Peter Thiel, all these guys, and they're almost all guys, the mega billionaires behind him. And I think liberals wanted to shut down and still do. Citizens United get some money out of politics. McCain used to want to do all that. So again, good Republicans, real Republicans, should want to reform elections and voting and money in politics as well. Alexi, another example, Trump used frivolous motions to further slow walk justice in the courts. The SCOTUS slow walked ruling on presidential immunity. So folks, oh yeah, Mary Rose, shoulder massage, volunteer at animal shelter, love that. A local, animal rescue, book club, libraries sometimes have open mic. Our local cafe, Trident, has tons of events. Laughing Goat, local Food Not Bombs, great. This all from Suzanne, all feels so big that it can be paralyzing, can cause collapse in our own systems. But I do agree that the seemingly small things we do for ourselves and each other matters so much. When it comes from the heart, we still matter. Our actions matter, however small or big. Heart. If I've missed any other really helpful comments, please feel free to copy paste them. Sorry, I'm not keeping up completely. Yeah, Margot, we've been on so many post-election gatherings, holding the stability, love, and light with everyone. As Ram Dass teacher told him, go home and love everyone. Will this session be available to watch again later or share out? Yeah, it'll be on Elephant Journal. Your names won't be in the comments. That's why I'm repeating a lot of the comments. I don't think. Heidi, thank you, Waylon. Yeah, we must be aware and prepared for the coming midterms in 2 years. That's going to be key. Does anyone know if we've lost the House now or not? If we lose the House, I think Trump is going to run hog wild. I think it's going to be a little brutal. Sorry I look so tired. I am tired. Many of us are tired. This is going to be beautiful in terms of the loving resistance and the community we're going to form, and it's going to be ugly in terms of those vulnerable and those prominent folks who are targeted. Yeah, Nicole, Buddhist mindset is not ignoring fear or reality. The Buddhist mindset is grounding ourselves in the earth, reaching into the heavens, connecting community in our shoulders, our hearts, and remembering to breathe. Our intention being to simply be of benefit. I think this is a time for poetry. Who's your favorite poet right now? Right now, Mary Oliver comes to mind, but Wendell Berry is one of my favorites. Robert Frost, Henry David Thoreau, Maya Angelou. Art, it can be a way for us to understand this time we're in. Mary Rose, get strong, walk, chop wood, carry water. Be kind to our planet. If any of you are, Edie, I think I address, Project 2025, if that's what you mean. Oh yeah, deeply concerned. I mean, I think they're for real. I think Trump learned from last time and will not surround himself with competent country over party Republicans. Levy Romero, the House is still up for, we're still figuring it out. Yeah, yesterday we were still figuring it out. John O'Donohue, Eco Dharma is having a call tomorrow. Yeah, please put in any other links. If anyone is in LA, I would like to connect for community from Christina. Anyone else in LA? To the extent all of you want to, maybe just say where you are. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. Any of you want to connect, I'm totally up for it. Mary Rose is in LA. Mary Rose and Christina, you want to somehow connect? Maybe your email or text each other. You can DM each other, I think, through this. Michigan, anyone else want to connect? LA, Boulder, Anastasia, happy to connect. Kelsey and I. The House race currently, thank you. Yeah, I've been following mostly on the New York Times. East Coast, Central Florida, Rochester, Miami, Richmond, Shippensburg, PA. It's got to be close to another PA. I do want to put in a plug for, I just mentioned the New York Times. A lot of liberals, conservatives are always hating on the media. I'm a journalist, a trained journalist. That irritates me to no end. I think, there's problems with the media, corporate media, etc. But overall, journalists are trying to report the news and facts. And I think, if you're going to support media, find some real journalism, not left-wing journalism, not right-wing journalism, real journalism. I love the New York Times. I'm just going to put that out there. Yeah, there's articles I disagree with. There's certainly opinion articles I disagree with. But overall, I feel like the integrity of what they're doing is incredible. If you disagree with that, that's great. I also subscribe to the Colorado Sun. If you're in Colorado, I highly recommend it. There's plenty of other good outfits. Invest in real journalism. We're kind of a fact-free society right now, and we need to bring facts back into the center of our society. We'll do more gatherings if more folks want them. But please, I'm going to end with another appeal. Please write on Elephant, and we'll share it up. And, that's community. Eco Dharma having a call. Yeah, put that link in, or we can just Google it up. So I think we're about at time. I mean, there's podcast culture and Joe Rogan, blah, blah, blah. But real journalism can, again, reach that crowd. Real journalism needs to become the center of gravity that it once was. And to the extent that it can't, Elephant, good podcasts, whatever little is left. A lot of podcasts, again, are founded on these kind of corrupt tech platforms, in my view. So we'll do more gatherings if you like. During the pandemic, we did a whole bunch. If any of you aren't getting our newsletter, that's where we'll share the word about gatherings. So make sure you get it. Is anyone getting our newsletter or subscribing? Are there any subscribers or newsletter subscribers? Newsletter's free. Yeah, Suzanne, tuning out is fine if it's a phase. Suzanne is concerned a lot of folks, liberals, want to tune out. I think a phase, taking a bath like Kelsey and I did yesterday, or getting a massage, or whatever it is, going to yoga, curling up in the fetal position on a couch, all of that is valid, but we need to take care of ourselves. That's Maitri. Maybe Kelsey can find a Maitri link, but taking care of ourselves is not tuning out. That is what I call gated community spirituality. That creates a sort of toxic environment around ourselves, or the cocoon. You could read about the cocoon on Elephant if you search that. So big love to everyone. Thank you so much for gathering. I hope this has been good. We can also do Zoom calls where we can see all your faces. I brought one of my favorite mugs. Most of my mugs are handmade, but this is a sort of traditional, like, Dutch made mug. for Fenway Park, where I did my second proposal to Kelsey this summer. I send love to all of you. Catherine, thank you. Susan, thank you. Christina, thank you. Please, everyone, make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter. If you have a couple bucks, subscribe to Elephant. If you don't, you can write or get our newsletter and read. Thank you, everyone. You can still read on Elephant for free, a limited number of articles. I can't beg you enough. Keep Elephant surviving and thriving through this, and we will continue to be a resource. If we keep doing these gatherings, I can, again, like during the Black Lives Matter protests and during the pandemic, we invited Jane Elliott, world-renowned racism expert, on, or what do you call it, de-racism. And we had Senator Cory Booker on. We'll invite guests on, but I think just having this community is so wonderful. Nicole, thank you. Let's all take a great posture. Thank you, Kelsey, for hosting. And with respect and friendliness, let's offer a bow to one another. Thank you. May it be of some benefit. I'll leave this open for a second. Please connect with each other in real life. Anti-racism, thank you. The coffee hasn't hit. De-racism is the new term. Thank you so much, everyone. And please take care of yourself. Please, basic advice, read Pema Chodron. Buy a used book. Don't buy it on Amazon. Buy it locally. Read Pema Chodron. That'll get you out of the curled up in a fetal position posture.